This is not a random moment, and this is not a video you simply stumbled upon. Hear this clearly. The title you saw was not written to create fear, but to release awareness, because right now, in the unseen realm, Archangel Michael has already drawn his sword in response to something unfolding around you. This action was not symbolic. It was not delayed. It was immediate. The line had been crossed, and heaven has responded. While you were living your daily life, while you were trusting, hoping, and moving forward, a betrayal began forming behind your back. Not loudly, not obviously, quietly, strategically. And that is why this message carries urgency. God says only the chosen would open this video in time to stop it, because only the chosen have the discernment to act before damage is done. You must understand this first truth: betrayal never announces itself. It never comes wearing the face of an enemy. It comes wearing familiarity. It comes through access. It comes through trust. That is why heaven intervenes early. That is why Michael's sword is drawn before the wound is felt. God does not wait for his chosen to bleed before he sends a warning. He interrupts. He alerts. He pulls back the veil just enough for you to see that something is not aligned, even if you cannot yet name it. And if you felt a sudden heaviness when you read the title, or a strange pull that made you stop scrolling, that was not emotion. That was recognition. Archangel Michael is not sent for minor disturbances. He is not dispatched for everyday disagreements or small misunderstandings. Michael is activated when there is a threat to divine assignment. When something attempts to interfere with destiny, timing, or covenant, heaven responds with authority. The sword represents separation. It represents protection. It represents a decisive stance from God that says, "This will not go further." And the fact that this message reached you now means intervention is already in motion, but your awareness is required to complete it. Listen carefully. The betrayal referenced in this alert is already happening. Not later. Not someday. Already. That does not mean you are losing. It means God has exposed it early. There is a difference. The enemy works best in silence and confusion. God works through clarity and timing. You were not meant to discover this after the damage. You were meant to recognize it before the outcome is sealed. That is why this is called an important alert. Alerts are not explanations. They are warnings that demand attention. You may be asking yourself why now, and why this message feels so direct. The answer is simple and sobering. God says only the chosen would open this video in time to stop it. Chosen does not mean perfect. It does not mean superior. It means entrusted. It means you carry something that must be protected. It means there is value on your obedience and danger in your delay. Heaven does not issue urgent alerts to those with nothing at stake. There are people around you who do not know what you carry, but they sense it. They may not understand your calling, but they feel threatened by your growth. Betrayal is often born not from hatred, but from insecurity, from comparison, from fear of being left behind. And so it hides behind smiles, conversations, and normal routines. That is why discernment is more powerful than confrontation. God is not telling you to accuse. He is telling you to become aware. This is where many people miss it. They wait for proof instead of listening to prompting. They wait for evidence instead of honoring intuition. But heaven does not speak in court documents. It speaks in nudges, interruptions, and warnings like this one. The sword drawn does not mean destruction is coming toward you. It means protection has already been activated on your behalf. But protection works best when the chosen are alert, not asleep. You are not being told this to panic. You are being told this to prepare. There is a difference between fear and readiness. Fear paralyzes. Readiness sharpens. God sharpens his chosen before exposure, not after betrayal succeeds. That is why this message feels intense. That is why it feels personal. Understand this clearly before moving forward. Nothing has been lost yet. Nothing has been taken yet. Nothing has been ruined yet. This alert exists because there is still time. Time to adjust. Time to listen. Time to let God lead instead of assuming everything is fine. Betrayal feeds on assumption. Protection thrives on awareness. Archangel Michael drawing his sword is not a threat against you. It is a declaration over you. It says this one matters. It says this assignment will not be sabotaged quietly. It says what was meant to happen in secret will be brought into the light at the right moment. And right now, the first step is not action. It is attention. As this message continues, you will begin to recognize patterns, feelings, and signs you may have ignored or explained away. That is not to burden you, but to free you. God never reveals to overwhelm. He reveals to equip. And the fact that you are hearing this now means heaven believes you are capable of handling the truth without breaking. This is your alert. Not to accuse, not to fear, but to awaken. Something is shifting. Heaven has responded. And you were meant to hear this before anything irreversible could happen. You are not here by accident, and this message did not surface in your awareness because of an algorithm or chance. There is a difference between content that is consumed and messages that are encountered. This was an encounter. God says this warning found you because you were reachable, not because you were searching. Many people scroll past divine interruptions every day, but the chosen feel a pause in their spirit when truth passes by. Something inside you recognized that this was not ordinary, and that recognition is evidence of alignment, not curiosity. There are moments when heaven interrupts routine to protect destiny. This is one of those moments. You did not open this video because you were bored. You opened it because something in you sensed urgency without understanding why. That is how divine selection works. God does not always explain first. He positions first. He gathers attention before you releases clarity. And right now, your attention is the most powerful tool you have. You may have wondered why certain things recently felt slightly off, even when everything looked normal on the surface. Conversations that felt different. Energy that shifted when certain names came up. A subtle resistance in your spirit that you couldn't logically explain. Those were not random feelings. They were early signals. God speaks to the chosen through discernment long before exposure becomes necessary. This message is not the beginning of awareness. It is the confirmation of what your spirit already knew but your mind had not yet accepted. Understand this truth. God does not warn everyone the same way. Some people learn through consequence. The chosen are taught through instruction. This is instruction. This is God saying, pay attention now so you do not have to repair later. The betrayal unfolding behind your back has not succeeded because you were alerted before alignment was lost. Heaven always gives the chosen a window. You are standing in that window now. What makes this moment critical is not the betrayal itself, but your response to the warning. Awareness without action becomes delay, and delay is the one thing betrayal needs to advance. God is not asking you to confront anyone yet. He is asking you to listen, observe, and stay spiritually alert. Discernment sharpens when you slow down enough to hear God clearly. This is why this message matters beyond just you. When one chosen person becomes alert, an entire chain of events shifts. When discernment rises, deception loses ground. When awareness increases, betrayal weakens. That is why messages like this must reach those who are ready to receive them. Not everyone will understand this. Not everyone is meant to. But those who are meant to will feel it deeply. If this message is resonating with you, it is important that you do not treat it as passive listening. Engagement is not just digital, it is spiritual agreement. When you acknowledge truth, you align with it. That is why I encourage you to take a moment right now and interact with this message. Like this video as a sign of agreement. Share it if you feel led, because someone else may need this warning before it's too late for them. Subscribe to this channel so you stay connected to future alerts and confirmations that God releases. This is not about numbers. It is about staying positioned where clarity flows. Your engagement is not for visibility. It is for alignment. Every action taken in awareness strengthens discernment. Every moment of attention given to truth creates distance between you and deception. And the more you stay connected, the clearer God's guidance will become in the days ahead. Right now, heaven is not asking you to solve anything. It is asking you to stay open, to resist the urge to rationalize what you are sensing, to trust that if God interrupted you with this message, He intends to guide you through what comes next. The chosen do not need to ray. They need to listen. You may notice, after this moment, that certain behaviors become more obvious. Certain inconsistencies surface without you searching for them. That is not because things suddenly change. It is because your awareness shifted. Light reveals what was already there. And when light increases, truth cannot hide. This message came to you before the situation escalated for a reason. You are early, not late. You are ahead, not behind. God is not reacting to betrayal, He is preempting it. That is the power of divine warning. And as you move forward, remember this: clarity is protection. Discernment is defense. Awareness is authority. You are here because God trusted you with this alert. And as this message continues, you will begin to understand not only what is happening, but why heaven responded so quickly on your behalf. The betrayal God is exposing is not distant, and it is not random. It is close enough to have access, and subtle enough to remain hidden unless discernment is activated. This is why it feels unsettling rather than obvious. Betrayal rarely announces itself with confrontation. It begins with quiet shifts, altered intentions, and unspoken motives. The person involved does not need to hate you. Often, betrayal grows from proximity mixed with insecurity. It forms when someone has seen your growth, sensed your calling, and quietly decided they would rather interfere than confront their own lack of alignment. This is why God speaks now, before events fully surface. The chosen are not destroyed by open enemies. They are wounded by trusted access. And heaven does not allow that access to remain unchecked when destiny is involved. What is happening behind your back is not chaos. It is a calculated move meant to delay, divert, or drain what God has placed on your life. But calculation fails when exposure begins early. That is what this message represents. Early exposure. You may have noticed subtle signs already. Moments when conversations felt rehearsed. Support that suddenly became inconsistent. Energy that shifted when progress was mentioned. These are not coincidences. They are indicators. God often speaks first through discomfort because comfort keeps people passive. Discernment sharpens when something feels off even though everything looks fine. That uneasy feeling was not weakness. It was warning. Understand this clearly. Betrayal does not require dramatic action to be effective. Sometimes it works through delay. through withheld information, through silence where support should be, through influence placed quietly in the wrong ears. And because it happens subtly, many people dismiss the early signs, telling themselves they are overthinking. But the chosen are not called to overthink. They are called to discern. God is revealing this not to create suspicion, but to restore clarity. There is a difference. Suspicion breeds fear. Discernment brings peace, even when the truth is uncomfortable. The moment you stop doubting what your spirit is sensing, confusion loses its grip. This is why the alert came now. You were about to enter a phase where clarity matters more than comfort. This betrayal does not have authority over you. Authority only works where awareness is absent. Once something is seen, it begins to lose power. Heaven does not reveal everything at once because clarity comes in layers. Right now, you are being given the first layer, awareness. You are not meant to confront yet. You are meant to observe without reacting. When God exposes, He also instructs on timing. Acting too early can be just as damaging as acting too late. Pay attention to patterns, not personalities. Betrayal reveals itself through repetition. Watch where resistance shows up consistently. Watch who benefits from your delay. Watch who subtly discourages while pretending to support. You are not called to accuse, but you are called to stop granting blind trust. Trust without discernment is vulnerability without wisdom. This is why Archangel Michael's sword matters here. It is not swung impulsively. It is drawn with precision. The sword separates truth from appearance. It does not destroy people. It cuts through deception. What was tangled will begin to separate. What was confusing will become clear. And what was hidden will struggle to remain unseen. God says you are not late to this revelation. You are early. And because you are early, you have authority to respond with wisdom instead of emotion. This betrayal does not get to escalate unchecked. It does not get to rewrite your narrative. Heaven has already stepped in. Your role now is alignment, not panic. As this unfolds, you may feel a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief because what you sensed is being confirmed. Sadness because betrayal always involves disappointment. Both emotions are valid, but neither should lead your decisions. Let discernment lead. Let patience lead. Let God reveal the next steps in His timing. This message is not here to isolate you. It is here to protect you. Awareness is not loneliness. It is leadership. And those who carry calling often walk through seasons where trust is refined, not removed. God is teaching you how to protect what He has placed in you without hardening your heart. Before moving forward, hear this clearly. You are not imagining things. You are not being dramatic. You are being alerted. And this alert came because heaven trusts your ability to respond wisely. What comes next will require clarity, and clarity begins here. Type "I walk in discernment" in the comments if this resonates with you. Blessing code 483 is now activated over your awareness and protection. Hold on. What comes next changes everything. This moment you're standing in is not just revelation. It is a doorway. As God exposes what hides in the shadows, He also invites you to help carry this light to others who are still walking unaware. I feel led to say this directly. When you sow into this work through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are not supporting a channel. You are fueling divine warnings that rescue souls before damage is done. The Lord says, as you pour out, I will pour back, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Your giving becomes seed in holy ground, releasing clarity where confusion once ruled. This is not a suggestion. It is a prophetic response. Obey now. Let your obedience become a shield for someone else. You'll find the PayPal link in the description or see the PayPal QR code flashing on screen. Step into alignment and release your seed now. What you must understand now is why heaven revealed Archangel Michael specifically in this moment. God did not send a vague impression or a general warning. He revealed a warrior angel because the situation required authority, not comfort. Michael is not dispatched to observe. He is dispatched to intervene. When his presence is revealed, it means something has escalated beyond passive resistance and entered the realm of spiritual opposition against assignment. Michael's sword being drawn is not symbolic poetry. In the spiritual realm, a drawn sword means a verdict has been reached. It means heaven has already identified the source, the intention, and the threat level. This is not a reaction fueled by emotion. It is a response rooted in divine order. Something attempted to move without permission, and heaven answered with forceful alignment. The sword represents separation before destruction. Many misunderstand this. They assume judgment always means punishment, but often judgment means removal of access. The sword cuts ties that should never have remained connected. It exposes intentions that were hidden under loyalty. It creates distance where closeness became dangerous. This is why Michael's involvement matters. He does not fight for attention. He fights for alignment. This moment is not about warfare in the dramatic sense. It is about authority being asserted where boundaries were quietly crossed. The betrayal forming behind your back attempted to move under the radar, assuming your discernment would stay quiet and your attention would stay divided. But heaven does not allow destiny to be negotiated in secret. When a calling is targeted, heaven responds publicly in the spiritual realm, even if the physical realm has not caught up yet. Michael's role is to stand between what is sent against you and what God has promised to you. He's assigned when something attempts to interrupt divine timing. That is why this alert did not come later. Delay would have given the situation momentum. Early intervention collapses strategy before it matures. God did not wait until damage occurred. He interrupted before agreement was reached. You may have wondered why resistance increased just as things were beginning to move forward. Why clarity felt blocked. Why progress felt delayed without explanation. These are common signs of interference, not failure. When something is assigned to you, opposition often attempts to enter through relationships, not obstacles. People become the channel when circumstances fail. That is why discernment around access becomes critical. Michael's sword also represents truth enforced, not just truth revealed. Revelation shows you what is happening. Enforcement ensures it cannot continue unchecked. This means what was working quietly will begin to lose consistency. Plans will misalign. Conversations will falter. Influence will weaken. Not because you acted, but because heaven did. Your role is not to interfere with the intervention by reacting emotionally. This is where wisdom is required. Many people ruin divine intervention by confronting too early. Exposure without instruction creates chaos. God exposes in layers because he also controls timing. Michael's sword does not swing randomly. It waits for the precise moment when separation causes minimal damage and maximum clarity. Trust that timing. Right now, your job is not to investigate. It is to remain observant. Notice what begins to unravel on its own. Notice who becomes uncomfortable as clarity increases. Notice who changes behavior without explanation. These are signs that intervention is working. Darkness reacts when light is applied, even quietly. Understand this deeply. You are not under attack because you did something wrong. You are being protected because you are moving correctly. Opposition often appears when alignment increases, not when mistakes are made. The presence of resistance does not mean retreat is required. It means confirmation is present. Michael's involvement also signals that this situation is being handled at a level beyond your emotional reach. You are not required to carry the weight of this alone. Heaven has already taken responsibility for enforcement. That should bring peace, not pressure. When God assigns an angel, He removes the burden from your hands. This is why fear has no place here. Fear clouds discernment. Peace sharpens it. You are not being asked to brace for loss. You are being positioned for protection. What is meant for you cannot be taken when awareness and authority are activated together. As this continues, clarity will increase naturally. You will not need to force understanding. God will bring alignment through exposure, not confrontation. Michael's sword ensures that what does not belong cannot remain connected indefinitely. You are not late. You are not vulnerable. You are not unprotected. Heaven has already responded. Your role now is to stay aligned, stay attentive, and stay patient. The sword is drawn. The line has been set. And what was moving in secret is already losing ground. Before betrayal ever manifests in visible form, it always begins in the spiritual realm. Nothing unfolds suddenly, even when it appears that way on the surface. What feels abrupt in the natural world has usually been rehearsed quietly in the unseen. This is why God addresses things early, long before people recognize patterns. The spiritual realm sets the tone, and the physical realm eventually follows. When you understand this, you stop blaming yourself for not seeing it sooner and begin to recognize that God revealed it exactly on time. Betrayal begins as a thought before it becomes an action. A thought of comparison. A thought of entitlement. A thought of resentment. Someone begins to internally question why your progress looks the way it does, why your favor seems consistent, why doors open for you that remain closed for them. That internal conflict, when left unchecked, looks for an outlet. And when the heart is not surrendered, the outlet often becomes interference. This is how betrayal operates spiritually first. It does not require malice at the beginning. It only requires misalignment. Someone can like you and still work against you. Someone can pray with you and still envy you. Someone can support you publicly and resist you privately. These contradictions are not rare. They are signs of internal disorder. And internal disorder always looks for expression. Spiritually, betrayal gains strength through agreement. Agreement with doubt. Agreement with fear. Agreement with insecurity. When someone agrees internally that your growth threatens their position, their spirit begins to move defensively. A defensive posture does not always look aggressive. Sometimes it looks passive. Sometimes it looks like withholding. Sometimes it looks like silence when advocacy was expected. Sometimes it looks like subtle influence meant to some momentum. This is why God warned you before you could name the issue. He saw agreement forming where it should not exist. He saw access being misused quietly. He saw conversations happening without your presence that were not aligned with His intention. And instead of allowing the situation to mature into damage, He interrupted the process early. You may have felt this as confusion or heaviness without knowing why. That is because your spirit recognized interference before your mind had context. Spiritual interference often manifests as mental fog, hesitation, or unexplained resistance. It does not mean something is wrong with you. It means something around you is not aligned. The chosen often feel disruption before they understand it. Another way betrayal operates spiritually is through delay. Delay is one of the enemy's most effective tools because it feels harmless. Nothing breaks. Nothing collapses. Things simply stop moving the way they once did. Progress slows. Communication shifts. Momentum weakens. Delay gives the illusion of safety while quietly draining strength. This is why discernment around timing is critical. God is a God of movement. When movement stalls without reason, discernment should awaken. Betrayal also feeds on your tendency to give the benefit of the doubt. The chosen often lead with grace, assuming others will self-correct. Grace is powerful, but grace without discernment can become vulnerability. God does not remove your grace in moments like this. He sharpens it with wisdom. You are not being asked to become suspicious. You are being asked to become alert. Spiritually, betrayal cannot survive sustained awareness. The moment you stop ignoring internal prompts, the structure begins to weaken. That is why this message came now. You were about to step into a phase where sustained awareness would be required. God never advances his chosen without adjusting their discernment first. Another important truth is this: betrayal does not always come from intention to harm. Sometimes it comes from fear of being exposed. When someone senses that your clarity, growth, or authority is increasing, they may act preemptively to protect their image, position, or influence. This fear-driven response does not excuse the behavior, but it explains why it often feels confusing. Fear makes people irrational, and irrational behavior often hides behind familiarity. God allows you to see this now so you do not internalize what does not belong to you. Many chosen people blame themselves for resistance that was never about them. They assume they did something wrong when, in reality, they simply outgrew an environment or dynamic. This message is freeing you from self-blame by giving you context. You are not being told this to become distant from everyone. You are being taught how to steward access wisely. Access is powerful. Who has it matters. How they use it matters. And when access becomes misaligned, heaven intervenes to protect what is sacred. As this process continues, you may notice that some connections begin to shift without you forcing them. That is not loss. That is alignment. When God separates, he does so to preserve purpose, not to punish people. Separation is often the most merciful outcome when misalignment persists. Remember this as you move forward. Betrayal operates best in confusion and silence. It weakens under clarity and awareness. And now that awareness hath been activated, the process that once moved quietly will struggle to sustain itself. God has already stepped in. Your role is to remain grounded, observant, and led, not reactive. This is not the end of a chapter. It is a correction of a trajectory. And correction now prevents collapse later. God never exposes betrayal without first releasing warning, and this is one of the most misunderstood aspects of divine protection. Many people assume exposure is sudden, harsh, or reactive, but in truth, God is deliberate and merciful in how he reveals. Warning always comes before unveiling. Instruction always comes before correction. And awareness always comes before consequence. This message is not exposure yet. It is warning. And warning is proof of God's desire to protect, not punish. When God warns, it means the situation is still redeemable. It means outcomes can still shift. It means alignment can still be restored without unnecessary loss. Exposure is what happens when warnings are ignored. God prefers prevention over repair, because repair always costs more than adjustment. That is why this alert reached you now, before names are revealed, before motives are undeniable, before consequences are irreversible. You must understand that God's warnings are rarely loud. They are subtle, persistent, and precise. He speaks through interruptions, inner checks, repeated confirmations, And moments like this where something in your spirit says, pay attention. The chosen are not led by chaos. They are led by clarity that arrives quietly but firmly. This is not a moment to panic. It is a moment to listen. What God is asking of you right now is not confrontation. It is cooperation. Cooperation with discernment. Cooperation with timing. Cooperation with His leading rather than your emotions. Many people misinterpret warning as permission to act immediately, but divine wisdom knows when to pause. Here is a reason God has not yet revealed every detail. Full exposure too early can provoke unnecessary conflict. God reveals in measures so that peace is preserved while truth advances. This warning is also mercy toward the one involved. God gives space for repentance before exposure. He allows opportunity for correction before consequence. This does not mean betrayal is excused. It means God is just. He gives room for hearts to realign before separation becomes permanent. But make no mistake, warning ignored eventually becomes unveiling. Time does not erase betrayal. It either heals it through repentance or reveals it through exposure. God is also protecting your heart in this process. Sudden exposure without preparation can harden even the strongest hearts. Warning allows you to process truth gradually, without shock, without bitterness, without unnecessary pain. God does not want you to carry offense. He wants you to carry wisdom. That is why He speaks now, before emotions are triggered. Another reason warning comes before exposure is so you do not internalize betrayal as failure. Many people only understand betrayal after damage has been done, and they spend years asking themselves what they missed. God is sparing you that cycle. He is showing you that what is unfolding is not because you lack discernment, but because discernment was being sharpened. This is refinement, not rebuke. You may notice that after this warning, your sensitivity increases. Things you once overlooked will stand out. Conversations may feel different. Silence may feel louder. This is not paranoia. This is clarity and greasing. God is recalibrating your awareness so you can see without suspicion and sense without fear. Discernment does not accuse, it observes. Warning also prepares you emotionally for what may come. When exposure eventually happens, if it needs to, you will not be shocked. You will not be destabilized. You will not react impulsively. You will recognize the moment as confirmation, not devastation. This is the power of divine preparation. God does not ambush His chosen with truth. He walks them toward it. It is important to remember that stopping something does not always mean confrontation. Sometimes stopping means disengaging. Sometimes it means adjusting boundaries. Sometimes it means no longer sharing access to sensitive information or plans. Wisdom does not require explanation. You do not owe everyone insight into your next move. God is teaching you restraint, not secrecy, discernment, not withdrawal. This warning is also an invitation to trust God more deeply. When betrayal is exposed gradually, it forces you to rely on God's timing instead of your desire for resolution. A dependence builds spiritual maturity. It teaches you that not everything needs immediate answers. Some things need patient obedience. God is not asking you to carry suspicion into every relationship. He's asking you to become more selective with access. Selectivity is not unloving. It is responsible. Jesus Himself did not entrust everyone with the same level of access, even though He loved all. Wisdom does not contradict love. It protects it. As you move forward, resist the urge to test people or provoke reactions. Let God do the revealing. He does not need your help exposing what is hidden. It only needs your cooperation in staying aligned. Silence, patience, and observation are often the strongest responses in seasons like this. This warning is proof that God is ahead of the situation. Nothing caught him off guard. Nothing slipped past his sight. And nothing will be allowed to progress beyond what he has already addressed. You are not walking into uncertainty. You are walking into clarity, one layer at a time. What comes next will not require force. It will require trust. God has already spoken. Heaven has already responded. And the very fact that you were warned means the outcome is already being rewritten. There are clear signs that confirm you are one of the chosen receiving this alert, and they do not look the way many people expect. Being chosen is not proven by perfection or position. It is revealed through sensitivity to God's interruptions. One of the strongest signs is that you could not easily ignore this message. Something in you insisted on listening, even if you did not fully understand why. That inner insistence is not anxiety. It is alignment. Another sign is the way truth settles in your spirit, even when it challenges your comfort. Chosen ones recognize truth before they agree with it emotionally. You may not like what is being revealed, but you feel its accuracy. The quiet confirmation is discernment at work. It is not loud. It does not shout. It settles. And once it settles, it does not leave. You may also notice that your tolerance for confusion has decreased recently. Things that once felt manageable now feel heavy. Situations you used to excuse now feel draining. This is not impatience. It is refinement. God sharpens the chosen by reducing their ability to coexist with misalignment. What once felt normal begins to feel restrictive. This is a sign that your discernment is maturing. Another indicator is your relationship with silence. Chosen ones often go through seasons where they withdraw internally, even while remaining externally present. You may have felt less inclined to explain yourself, defend your decisions, or share every detail of your life. This is not isolation. It is preservation. God often pulls the chosen inward before shifting them outward. Silence becomes a place of clarity, not loneliness. Pay attention also to how your spirit reacts to certain environments. You may feel peace in places that lack recognition, and discomfort in places that offer applause. This reversal is a sign of spiritual alignment. The chosen are not sustained by validation. They are sustained by peace. When peace becomes your compass, discernment sharpens naturally. Another sign is that you have survived situations that should have broken you, yet they refined you instead. Betrayal, disappointment, delay, and misunderstanding did not destroy you. They clarified you. Each experience stripped away illusion and strengthened discernment. This alert is not your first awakening. It is another layer of awareness, being added to what God has already built. You may also notice that you are often misunderstood. People may project intentions onto you that are not accurate. They may assume motives you never had. This happens because clarity threatens those who rely on ambiguity. When your presence exposes truth, even unintentionally, it creates discomfort. The discomfort sometimes turns into resistance. This is not your fault. It is a consequence of carrying light. Chosen ones are also marked by their response to warning. Instead of reacting impulsively, something in you slows down. You feel a need to listen, reflect, and wait for God's direction. That restraint is not hesitation. It is wisdom. Impulsive people rush to resolve. Discerners wait to understand. This ability to pause is a sign of spiritual maturity. You may have noticed that your prayers have shifted. You ask less for outcomes and more for clarity, less for speed and more for alignment. This shift reveals trust. You no longer need control to feel safe. You trust God's timing more than your own understanding. But trust is not learned quickly. It is built through seasons of surrender. Another sign is your reaction to this alert itself. Instead of fear, you feel a strange sense of calm mixed with seriousness. But calm is protection. Fear would signal danger without authority. Calm signals authority without panic. God does not alert the chosen to frighten them. He alerts them to position them. Chosen ones often feel responsibility without being told. You sense when something matters. You sense when timing is critical. You sense when silence is no longer an option. That sense of responsibility is not pressure. It is stewardship. God entrusts awareness to those who can carry it without misusing it. Finally, one of the clearest signs is this: you feel strengthened by truth, not weakened by it. Even when the truth is uncomfortable, it gives you clarity, not confusion. It anchors you instead of unsettling you. That is how you know this alert is meant for you. Truth sent to the wrong person creates fear. Truth sent to the chosen creates readiness. You are not being tested to see if you qualify. You are being alerted because you already do. This moment is not about proving anything. It is about recognizing who you are and responding with wisdom. God does not choose randomly. He chooses intentionally. And the fact that you recognize yourself in this message confirms that this alert reached exactly who it was meant to reach. This is the turning point, the moment where awareness must become alignment. Up to now, God has been revealing, clarifying, and preparing you. But every warning carries a responsibility, and every alert invites a response. This is not about reacting emotionally or taking control. It is about choosing obedience over assumption and alignment over comfort. Heaven has already moved. Now your posture matters. The reason this moment is critical is because discernment without response eventually dulls. God sharpens awareness so that it leads to wise action, not passive observation. That action may not look dramatic. It may look like restraint. It may look like silence. It may look like changing how much access you allow certain people to have. But do not mistake subtle obedience for inactivity. Some of the most powerful shifts happen quietly. Your response in this season is not measured by what you say, but by what you stop sharing. Not by what you confront, but by what you entrust to God. When heaven intervenes, it often asks the chosen to step back rather than step forward. This creates space for God to move without interference. Interference does not always come from opposition. Sometimes it comes from impatience. You must understand that obedience now is a shield. It protects you from being pulled into unnecessary conflict. It protects your heart from offense. It protects your future from premature exposure. God is not asking you to withdraw from life. He is asking you to move with intention rather than assumption. Discernment should change how you navigate, not isolate you. This turning point also reveals who and what truly has influence in your life. Influence is not about proximity. It is about access to your thoughts, emotions, and decisions. God is recalibrating that access now. Some voices will naturally grow quieter. Some opinions will lose weight. Some connections will feel less relevant. This is not loss. This is alignment correcting itself. At this stage, obedience may feel uncomfortable because it requires trusting what God revealed over what you see. You may not yet have physical proof. You may not have confirmation from others. But spiritual confirmation came first. God often asks the chosen to move based on clarity, not consensus. Waiting for consensus can delay obedience. Another key aspect of this turning point is patience. God is not in a hurry. even when urgency is present. Urgency does not mean rushing. It means staying alert. Patience allows God to reveal without force. Rushing can expose too early, while patience allows truth to surface naturally. Michael's sword is already drawn. You do not need to swing it. You may feel an internal tension during this phase. Part of you wants resolution. Another part senses the need to wait. That tension is not confusion. It is discernment balancing wisdom and timing. Let peace guide you. Peace does not always mean everything feels settled. Sometimes peace means trusting God even while answers are unfolding. This turning point also invites you to release control. Control is often disguised as responsibility, but true responsibility knows when to surrender outcomes to God. You are responsible for obedience, not outcomes. God handles outcomes. When you release the need to manage the situation, you create room for divine intervention to complete its work. As you respond with obedience, you may notice that things begin to shift without your involvement. Conversations change. Plans alter. Information surfaces. Resistance weakens. These shifts are not coincidences. They are signs that heaven's intervention is active. When God moves, He does not always announce it. He demonstrates it through alignment. Do not underestimate the power of quiet obedience. Heaven honors it. What you do not say can protect you as much as what you do say. What you choose not to share can preserve your peace. Obedience does not always feel powerful in the moment, but it produces powerful outcomes. This turning point is also where fear must be released. Fear pressures you to act prematurely. Discernment invites you to wait wisely. Fear asks, what if? Discernment asks, what is God saying now? Stay anchored in the present instruction, not imagined futures. You are not responsible for exposing betrayal. God is. Your responsibility is to remain aligned so that when exposure happens, if it needs to, you are not emotionally entangled. Attachment does not mean indifference. It means trust. As this part concludes, hear this clearly. Your response matters, but it does not require force. It requires faith, patience, and obedience. Heaven has already positioned protection around you. What remains is your willingness to move in step with God's timing. Type "I choose alignment" in the comments if you are responding to this alert with obedience. Blessing code 912 is now activated over your decisions, timing, and protection. You'll be glad you stayed for what's about to be revealed. Right now, this message is not just reaching you. It is moving through you. And as it does, God is inviting you to help this light travel further than this moment. I hear the Lord saying, those who sow into warning will reap protection, and those who fund the light will walk in clarity. When you give through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are placing oil in the lamp that keeps these prophetic alerts burning for others who are still unaware. This is not a donation. It is an act of obedience. Do it now. Release your seed while the heavens are open. The PayPal link is in the description, and the PayPal QR code is flashing on screen. Step forward and let your obedience speak. Now that awareness has been activated and alignment has begun, this part is about positioning yourself correctly under protection and authority. Protection is not passive. Authority is not aggressive. Both are exercised through intentional alignment with God's instruction. When you understand your position, you stop reacting to what happens around you and start responding from who you are in God. Alignment begins with boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They determine what is allowed to influence you and what is not. In this season, God is teaching you that love without boundaries leads to burnout, confusion, and vulnerability. Authority without boundaries leaks power. You are not being asked to cut people off emotionally. You are being asked to manage access spiritually. One of the most important ways to align with protection right now is through restraint in speech. Not everything you know needs to be spoken. Not everything you sense needs to be shared. Words carry weight, and in seasons of discernment, silence often speaks louder than explanation. You do not need to defend your decisions when God is guiding them. Explanation is often a response to insecurity, not wisdom. Another key aspect of authority is refusing to internalize what does not belong to you. Betrayal often tries to plant self-doubt. It whispers questions like, "Did I do something wrong? Or was I too trusting?" But alignment restores truth. The truth is this: you were obedient with what you knew at the time. God does not judge you for what you could not see. He equipped you for what you see now. Authority also means staying rooted in peace. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of God's assurance. When peace governs your decisions, you stop being reactive. You stop trying to control outcomes. You allow God to move ahead of you. That is true authority, trusting God enough to not interfere with His process. In this season, protection may look like delays that frustrate you at first. Plans may shift. Opportunities may pause. Conversations may stall. Do not rush to fix these moments. Often, delay is divine insulation. God slows things down so exposure does not happen prematurely and so your heart remains guarded. Trust the pacing of this season. Another way you align with authority is by staying connected to truth consistently. Messages like this are not meant to be isolated moments. They are part of a larger flow of discernment and confirmation. Staying connected keeps your awareness sharp. That is why it is important to engage with this channel regularly. Subscribe so you remain positioned to receive future insights and alerts as God releases them. This is not about loyalty to a platform. It is about staying in alignment with clarity. If this message has helped you, share it. Not out of obligation, but out of discernment. Someone else may be standing at the edge of a situation where awareness could change everything. When you share truth, you become a conduit of protection for others. That is authority in action. Liking this video is also more than a digital gesture. It is agreement. Agreement strengthens alignment. When you engage, you are saying, "I receive this instruction, and I choose to walk in it." These actions may seem small, but alignment is built through consistent agreement with truth. Now, here is something crucial to understand. Authority does not mean you will never feel pressure. It means pressure will not dictate your decisions. You may still feel tension. You may still feel moments of uncertainty, but you will no longer be led by them. You will be led by discernment. As you continue forward, you may notice that people respond differently to you. Some will respect your boundaries. Others may resist them. Resistance often reveals where misalignment existed. Do not take resistance personally. When you change posture, dynamics change naturally. This is also the phase where confidence must be rooted in God, not in validation. You may not receive immediate affirmation for your choices. Others may question your silence or your distance. Let them. Authority does not require approval. It requires obedience. There is also a deeper protection forming now, clarity of identity. When you know who you are, betrayal loses its ability to confuse you. Identity stabilizes perception. You stop questioning your worth based on how others behave. You stop measuring yourself by reactions. You stand grounded. As this part comes to a close, remember this: alignment is not a one-time decision. It is a daily posture. Choose each day to listen before reacting, to observe before assuming, and to trust God before acting. That posture keeps you under protection and operating in authority. What is coming next will bring deeper clarity about outcomes and restoration. And as you move toward it, hold this truth close. You are not navigating this season unprotected, uninformed, or alone. Heaven is involved, and alignment keeps you in step with what God is doing. Take a breath here, because the next revelation will bring resolution you did not expect. This part addresses something many people avoid thinking about, but God speaks about it clearly. What happens when a warning is ignored? This is not said to condemn or frighten you. It is said to bring understanding. God does not threaten His chosen, He educates them. Ignoring a warning does not mean God withdraws His love. It means protection is no longer partnered with obedience, and that creates unnecessary exposure. When warnings are ignored, betrayal is given time to mature. Time is the greatest ally of hidden intention. What begins as subtle interference grows into influence. What starts as quiet resistance becomes active obstruction. Not because God allowed harm, but because awareness was dismissed. God never forces obedience. He invites it. When the invitation is ignored, consequences are not punishment. They are the natural result of misalignment. Ignoring warning often looks like rationalizing discomfort, telling yourself it's nothing, assuming feelings will pass, explaining away repeated signs. This is how discernment dulls. Not suddenly, but gradually. Each dismissed nod weakens sensitivity. Over time, clarity becomes harder to access, not because God stopped speaking, but because the heart stopped listening. When betrayal progresses unchecked, it gains leverage. Leverage is built through access, timing, and information. The longer access remains unrestricted, the more influence grows. The longer timing is ignored, the more momentum builds. God warns early to stop leverage before it forms. Once leverage exists, exposure becomes more disruptive than corrective. Another consequence of ignoring warning is internal confusion. When your spirit senses something but your mind refuses to acknowledge it, inner conflict grows. That conflict often manifests as anxiety, fatigue, or emotional heaviness. People often assume these feelings come from stress or overthinking, when in reality they come from resisting discernment. Peace returns when alignment is restored. Ignoring warning can also impact trust. When betrayal eventually surfaces without preparation, it often leads to cynicism rather than wisdom. People become guarded instead of discerning. Walls go up where filters should exist. God wants to protect your heart from that outcome. He wants you to grow wiser without growing colder. It is important to understand that ignoring warning does not make betrayal disappear. It only delays exposure while increasing damage. What is hidden does not heal by being ignored. It strengthens. God reveals early because early intervention preserves relationships, purpose, and peace. Late exposure often preserves truth but costs stability. There is also a spiritual cost to ignoring warning. Discernment is like a muscle. When used, it strengthens. When ignored, it weakens. God desires His chosen to grow sharper, not duller. Repeated disregard for warning trains the heart to tolerate misalignment. Over time, what once felt wrong begins to feel normal. That normalization is dangerous. Another consequence is unnecessary loss. Loss of time, loss of trust, loss of momentum. God's warnings are designed to minimize loss, not eliminate people. Many situations could be resolved quietly if addressed early through wisdom and boundaries. When ignored, resolution becomes public and painful. God also speaks about accountability and warning. When He alerts you, He entrusts you with responsibility. Not responsibility to fix everything, but responsibility to respond appropriately. Ignoring warning is not neutral. It is a choice to remain passive when instruction was given. God honors free will, even when it leads to difficulty. But hear this clearly. Even when warnings are ignored, God does not abandon His chosen. He adjusts the process. What could have been corrected quietly may now require exposure. What could have been resolved gently may now require separation. God's faithfulness remains, but the cost increases. This is why this alert matters so much. You are being given an opportunity to respond early. Early response preserves dignity. Early response protects peace. Early response limits damage. God is not telling you this to pressure you. He is empowering you to choose wisely. There is still time. That is the message. Ignoring warning closes windows. Responding keeps them open. God always prefers prevention over repair. And because you are hearing this now, prevention is still possible. This part is not meant to linger in fear, but to anchor you in seriousness. Awareness without weight leads to complacency. God wants you alert, not anxious. Serious, not afraid. Engaged, not overwhelmed. You are not being asked to do something dramatic. You are being asked not to dismiss what God has already revealed. Stay observant. Stay aligned. Stay responsive. That posture alone stops many things from progressing. The next part will reveal how God brings exposure and restoration without destroying what He intends to redeem. And that understanding will bring peace, not tension, as you move forward. When God brings exposure, He does not do it to humiliate or destroy. He does it to restore order. This is one of the most important truths to understand in this season. Many people fear exposure because they associate it with chaos, loss, or confrontation. But divine exposure is different from human exposure. Human exposure seeks control. Divine exposure seeks correction. One tears down for dominance. The other separates for healing. Exposure, in God's order, is not sudden punishment. It is gradual unveiling. It happens when the time is right, when hearts are prepared, and when the outcome can be stewarded with wisdom. This is why God warned you first. He was not preparing you for shock. He was preparing you for stability. When exposure comes after warning, it does not destabilize the chosen. It confirms what they were already discerning. One of the first things exposure does is remove confusion. Confusion is one of the enemy's strongest tools because it drains energy and clouds judgment. When truth is revealed, confusion collapses. Even if the truth is uncomfortable, clarity brings peace. You stop questioning yourself. You stop replaying conversations. You stop wondering if you imagine things. Exposure validates discernment and restores inner trust. Another function of exposure is separation. Separation is not rejection. It is alignment. When something is exposed, it becomes clear what belongs and what does not. God separates to protect purpose, not to punish people. Some connections cannot continue because they were built on misunderstanding or misalignment. Separation allows both sides to move where they are meant to be, even if it feels painful at first. Restoration often follows exposure, but it may not look the way people expect. Restoration does not always mean relationships return to their previous form. Sometimes restoration means peace replaces tension. Sometimes it means clarity replaces confusion. Sometimes it means your confidence in God's guidance is strengthened. God restores what matters most first: your stability, your trust, and your sense of direction. It is also important to understand that exposure does not require your involvement. Many chosen people feel pressured to reveal truth themselves, to explain, to defend, or to prove. But God does not need you to expose what He is already handling. In fact, your silence often allows exposure to happen more cleanly. When God exposes, it cannot be disputed. When people expose, it often creates signs. God's exposure also protects you from carrying unnecessary guilt. When truth comes to light without you forcing it, you are free from responsibility for the outcome. You did not accuse. You did not attack. You simply aligned. That alignment allows God to move without your emotional involvement. This is protection for your heart. Another aspect of restoration is the return of momentum. When misalignment is removed, movement resumes naturally. Things that felt stuck begin to flow. Decisions become easier. Direction becomes clearer. Energy returns. This is not coincidence. Misalignment drains. Alignment restores. When exposure clears the obstruction, progress resumes. You may also notice that after exposure, your discernment feels stronger, not weaker. This season sharpens your ability to recognize patterns earlier. You do not become suspicious. You become aware. You learn to trust your inner prompts without overanalyzing them. This is growth, not damage. God also restores confidence in relationships. While betrayal can shake trust, divine handling rebuilds it correctly. You learn that trust does not mean blind access. It means wise stewardship. You do not close your heart. You protect it. That balance allows healthy relationships to form without fear. Exposure also reestablishes authority. When truth is revealed, the power dynamic shifts. What once operated quietly loses influence. What relied on secrecy weakens. You do not need to assert authority aggressively. It returns naturally when alignment is restored. Authority rooted in truth does not need to announce itself. It is important to remember that restoration is a process, not a moment. Some things will feel immediate. Others will unfold gradually. Do not rush it. Let God complete what He started. Trust that what is being rebuilt will be stronger, clearer, and more aligned than what existed before. You are not losing anything God intended you to keep. You are not being stripped. You are being refined. What remains after exposure is what belongs. What leaves was never meant to stay connected at that level. This part of the journey is not about survival. It is about renewal. God is not merely protecting you from betrayal. He is positioning you for greater clarity, stronger boundaries, and deeper peace. Exposure is not the end of the story. It is the correction that makes the next chapter possible. As you move toward the final part, hold this truth firmly. God does not expose to harm you. He exposes to heal you, protect you, and realign you with what is ahead. And what is ahead will make sense of everything that had to be revealed. This is where everything comes together, not with fear, but with assurance. What began as an urgent alert now settles into clarity, peace, and confidence. God did not bring you this far to leave you unsettled. He brought you here to stabilize you. The warning was not the climax. The alignment is. And the alignment confirms this truth. You are protected, you are guided, and you are not behind. From the moment this message found you, heaven has been active on your behalf. Archangel Michael drawing his sword was never about chaos breaking loose. It was about order being enforced. What tried to move in secret has been confronted in the unseen. What tried to delay your progress has lost leverage. What tried to confuse you has been exposed to the light of discernment. And now, peace replaces tension because clarity has done its work. God says you were never meant to stop something through force. You were meant to stop it through awareness. Awareness changes outcomes. Awareness shifts trajectories. Awareness breaks agreement with deception. That is why this message came when it did. Not too early, not too late. Exactly on time. As you look back through everything revealed, understand this: nothing about you was wrong. Your trust was not foolish. Your heart was not weak. Your intentions were pure, and God honored that by stepping in before purity could be exploited. The season was not meant to harden you. It was meant to refine you. You are leaving it wiser, not colder. Stronger, not guarded. Clearer, not suspicious. The chosen are not those who never face betrayal. They are those who respond to it with discernment instead of bitterness. And you did. You listened. You stayed. You allowed God to lead instead of reacting from emotion. That response alone has already shifted outcomes you may never fully see, and that is okay. Some victories are silent. Some protection is invisible. Some interventions are known only by the peace they leave behind. God is restoring your sense of safety, not in people, but in Him. When trust is anchored in God first, relationships fall into their proper place. Some will walk closer. Some will remain at a distance. Both can be healthy when guided by discernment. You are not losing community. You are gaining alignment. As you move forward, you will notice something subtle but powerful. You will trust yourself again. You will trust God's prompts without second-guessing them. You will recognize early signs without fear. Discernment will feel natural, not heavy. That is restoration at work. This is also where assurance settles in. You are not being watched for mistakes. You are being guided toward peace. God is not waiting for you to fail. He is walking with you toward what is next. The alert has done its job. The intervention is complete. Now comes forward movement, calm, steady, and protected. Take a moment to breathe here. Let your shoulders relax. Let your thoughts settle. The intensity served its purpose, but it does not stay. Peace stays. Clarity stays. Confidence stays. God says you are safe to move forward without looking over your shoulder. Remember this truth going ahead. Discernment is not fear-based awareness. It is peace-based clarity. If peace leaves, pause. If clarity fades, listen. God will continue to guide you the same way He did here, gently, firmly, and on time. You did not miss anything. You did not fail any test. You responded when it mattered. The response rewrote the ending before it was written. And that is something only the chosen do, not because they are special, but because they listen. Type "I am divinely protected" in the comments if you receive this assurance. Blessing code 1468 is now activated over your peace, discernment, and future steps. As this message settles into peace, the Lord is extending an invitation through me directly to you. What you received today was not just for you. It was meant to flow through you to others who need the same protection and clarity. God says those who sow into my warnings will reap my covering. When you give through super thanks, membership, or PayPal, you are placing seed into a mission that rescues, alerts, and realigns souls before damage happens. This is prophetic ground. This is holy obedience. Do not delay. Act now and let your giving become light in someone else's darkness. The PayPal link is in the description, and the PayPal QR code is flashing on screen. Release your seed and step fully into alignment.